Cash comes in. We're not going to default. It'd be like you defaulting on a bank loan.
We're not going to default.
May some Department of Labor or Department of Education contractors or Raytheon contractors get their check 3 days late or 4 days late between now and the 15th? Hey, I don't know, but that's a managed process. That's not defaulting on the full faith and credit of the United States, is it?
Absolutely. Well, I don't work for the military-industrial complex anyways, so it's okay with me if they don't get their checks for more war in Ukraine.
So last week, when Fed Chairman Janet Yellen shifted the expected date that the U.S. would default from June 1st to June 5th, I had a very strong feeling that the right would use that recalculating as evidence that a default on our debts was just a scare tactic and not a real hard line. And as we see in this MTG clip, that's exactly what they're thinking. And now that an agreement has been reached between Kevin McCarthy and President Biden, I have a feeling Greene is going to be in an even worse of a mood this coming week. After his weekend talks with the House Majority Leader, Biden said that the New Deal, quote, prevents the worst possible crisis, a default for the first time in our nation's history. And McCarthy left the talks assuring Republicans that they had, quote, secured a historic series of wins worthy of the American people. But I have a feeling that certain people, like Marjorie, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, and others on the far right, aren't going to be too happy. So let's dive into the top provisions of the deal, which both Democrats and Republicans will need to drum up support for this week. So the agreement would suspend the debt limit through January 1st, 2025. This removes it as a potential issue in the 2024 presidential election. Further, the deal will shift $20 billion in IRS funding that was part of Biden's Inflation Reduction Act to other non-defense areas, as well as rescinding $30 billion in unobligated COVID-19 relief funding. It would also protect veterans' medical care, and finally, in a part that the left is not too happy about, the agreement calls for temporarily broadening of work requirements for certain adults receiving food stamps. It would also restart student loan repayments that have been paused since the pandemic, but finally, the agreement would not make any changes to the IRA's climate and clean energy provisions. So yeah, it's sort of a mixed bag, the good, the bad, the ugly, and if you think the progressive left is going to be mad, look at where Marjorie Taylor Greene's expectations were and how far off the mark they are with this new deal.
Oh, I'd cut a whole lot more. I can name some agencies with 3 letters that I would cut right away, and I think they deserve it, and the American people agree with it.
You would defund the FBI, you would defund DOJ, you would defund the CIA at starts and say, hey, you guys got to come and show us what you're really doing for the American people, not against the American people?
Well, to quote a great man, I would say we need to splinter it into 1,000 pieces, not just the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ. Yeah, they need to be ripped down, but then they need to be rebuilt correctly. They are rotten to the core, Steve, rotten to the core.
And you know that.
So ripping down the FBI, DOJ, and CIA are not part of this current deal, and I just can never get over these right-wing calls to defund the police. I mean, that's what she's saying here, right? There are certainly people on the left who would agree with these calls to gut these oversight bodies, but I doubt they would agree on how to build them back up. For more of my coverage on the breakdown, stay right here. You can watch my latest video on the looming debt ceiling and the moment Trump realized he's a massive hypocrite by clicking on a link in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on all platforms at Caro Johnson 917.